Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a concept that is quite literally everywhere around you. We're looking at the fundamental building blocks of human society. You know, how totally different groups of people actually manage to coexist, build nations, and thrive together. But before we zoom out to the global stage, we really need to start with you.
Think about this for a second. What invisible force controls you from cradle to grave? I mean, really think about it. What actually dictates the specific foods you crave when you get hungry? What determines the exact language you're thinking in right now? Why do you dress the way you do for a job interview versus, say, a wedding? It's not just personal preference, right? There's this deeply ingrained set of rules operating completely in the background of your life. It guides you, often totally without your conscious knowledge. It directs you, it completely shapes your worldview, and honestly, it's entirely inescapable.
And the answer to that question is, of course, culture. Now, anthropologists have gone back and forth debating the exact definition of this word for over a century, but what's genuinely amazing here is that this brilliant, perfectly synthesized definition we're looking at, it wasn't written by some university professor. It was actually pieced together by a diverse group of 8th graders, students like Januta, Dwani, and Fatima, during a civics class in Sri Lanka. I think it's a huge testament to how universally fundamental this concept really is. Through a simple classroom debate, these kids realize that culture isn't just about dusty history books or old buildings. It is the absolute totality of our knowledge, our beliefs, our arts, and our daily livelihood. Every single human being on Earth has a culture. But what exactly happens when the borders between all those distinct cultures start to blur?
Well, that brings us to part one. What is a multicultural society? Okay, so when you take individual culture and put it on a global stage where totally diverse groups share the exact same geographic borders, you get this beautiful, incredibly vibrant collision. It's a blending of global cuisines and entirely different ancestral lineages just existing shoulder to shoulder. Because in the modern world, isolation is pretty much a thing of the past. We see this gorgeous blending in nations all over the globe today. The United States, India, Great Britain, Sri Lanka. These are places where you could walk down a single street and easily hear 3 different languages, smell the spices of 5 distinct culinary traditions, and see the clothing of multiple heritages. It's beautiful, no doubt about it, but it's also incredibly complex. For a society like this to actually function well and not just collapse into conflict, it requires some serious structure.
Let's move right into part 2, the 5 pillars of diversity.
This beautifully complex multicultural existence we're talking about, it doesn't just work by accident. It heavily relies on a framework. Based on the civic research we're exploring today, a thriving multicultural society essentially rests on 5 foundational characteristics. Think of these like structural pillars holding up the roof of a diverse nation. We've got ethnicities, faiths, languages, customs, and heritage. If even one of these pillars starts to crumble, the whole structure is at risk of falling into total discord. So let's break down these distinct categories of human identity individually to see exactly how they function in a healthy society.
Starting things off with the first pillar, ethnicities. In a multicultural society, different ethnic groups are expected to work peacefully and collectively. But listen, that doesn't just mean politely tolerating each other. It requires something way deeper than that. It demands mutual trust and a collective conscience. It means stepping back from our specific racial identities and making a very conscious choice to work together as one unified nation. Without that absolute bedrock of mutual trust across ethnic lines, the society simply can't move forward.
Bridging right off of that, let's look at the second pillar and see how this builds into the realm of belief, faiths. The basic reality of a multi-ethnic society is that people are going to observe entirely different religions. The absolute requirement here is respect. And not just respecting your own religion, you have to actively respect the religions of others, ensuring you never defame them. Furthermore, a truly healthy society actively extracts the good moral teachings from all these different faiths to build mutual coexistence and make sure everyone can succeed.
Now, the third pillar is all about how we connect, languages. Communication is literally the lifeblood of society. For the betterment of a multicultural nation, it is incredibly beneficial to step outside your own mother tongue and learn other languages. But more importantly, it requires a major mindset shift. We have to start considering every language as equally valuable. When we do that, we tear down these massive invisible barriers and allow for the free, completely uninhibited exchange of ideas across different social groups.
Our fourth pillar is customs. You know, those traditional celebrations and rituals bestowed upon us by our ancestors. These are deeply, deeply personal. The civic responsibility here is actually twofold. First, yes, we absolutely must safeguard our own traditions. But second, and this is equally crucial, we absolutely must not condemn the customs of others.
It's about observing, respecting, and finding that shared human joy in our totally different cultural celebrations. And bringing it all together, the fifth pillar, heritage. This refers to the actual physical reflections of our cultural identity. Magnificent structures like the Temple of the Tooth or a stunning Hindu Kovel. These aren't just buildings, right? They are the physical manifestations of a people's entire history. Protecting and respecting these cultural elements, whether they're temples, stupas, churches, or monuments, exhibits the prestige and the pride of the entire country. Truly, protecting everyone's heritage is what guarantees the proper existence of the whole society.
All right, let's ground this in reality. Part 3, Case Study, Sri Lanka.
Let's take all of this theory we just covered and look at the actual mathematics of a multicultural nation. We're zooming in on Sri Lanka, which is just a prime example of a multi-ethnic, multi-religious society functioning as one. When we break down the ethnic makeup, we see a Sinhala majority of around 75%, followed by Tamil at about 11%, Muslim at roughly 9%, and Burgher and other communities making up that remaining 1%. But I don't want you to just see percentages here. I really want you to see the literal, beautiful demographic reality of a highly diverse nation. Every single demographic block represents hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of people, bringing their own unique flavors, traditions, and perspectives to the national table.
And closely mirroring this is the religious diversity of the exact same nation. It's roughly 70% Buddhist, 13% Hindu, nearly 10% Islam, and 7% Catholic and Christian. Notice how tightly this religious diversity reflects the ethnic complexity we were just looking at? You literally have people speaking different languages, observing different holidays, and praying in totally different temples, all sharing the exact same physical island. This data just firmly reinforces exactly why those 5 pillars we discussed, especially mutual trust and respect for different faiths, aren't just polite suggestions. They are absolute civic necessities for survival and peace.
Which leads us to our final takeaway, Part 4, Thriving in a Diverse World.
So, we've looked at the microscopic definition of culture, we've outlined the 5 pillars of diversity, and we've examined the hard data of a thriving multicultural nation. But, knowledge is only useful if we actually apply it. So what is our action plan to bring these lessons back into our own communities? Well, it really comes down to cultivating specific qualities as a global citizen. It starts with respecting all groups and actively safeguarding the rights of people from every ethnicity. It demands absolutely zero discrimination. It means stepping up to protect the cultural heritage of groups that aren't even your own. Crucially, it requires us to listen to the opinions of others and actually accept them if they're reasonable. And finally, it's about fulfilling our own civic duties concisely. When we actually practice these qualities, we directly minimize conflicts, we enhance cooperation, and we build sustainable peace.
The framework for peace is out there, but the execution, that's entirely up to us. So I'll leave you with this. How are you going to safeguard the cultural heritage in your own community? Think about the different languages, faiths, and customs right there in your own neighborhood. What specific action can you take this week to build trust and show some respect? Let that marinate for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.